I'm Shahar Azani, and in the news, a new Israeli government is coming together as Israel is coping, like so many of us, with the coronavirus. With me to discuss this as more and more is my good friend Ben-Dror Yemini, all the way from Israel. Ben-Dror Yemini is an author and writer, as well as a senior journalist with the Hebrew daily Yediot Aharonot, who lectures about the spread and impact of anti-Israel propaganda and so much more. In recent years, Yemini researched and published many articles about the industry of lies against the State of Israel, including a book with the same name published in 2014. In the book, Yemini explores the continuing anti-Israel incitement by the radical left, human rights groups, pro-Palestinian organizations, and radical Islam against the State of Israel and its Jewish character. In this framework, Yemini's research and articles about the Israeli-Arab conflict examine the issue of genocide, refugees, human rights violations, the status of Israeli Arabs, multiculturalism, and the status of women. They include comparative studies showing the gap between the myth about Israel and reality. As you can hear, many of these terms are ubiquitous in the anti-Israeli discussions online and across the board. I've read the book and I enjoyed it. It is a powerful and significant tool to debunk the lies around us and shed a much-needed light unto the truth. Ben-Dror, it's a pleasure to have you with us today, and welcome back to JBS.
Thank you so much, Shahar, because I think after this introduction, we should stop. Because,
well, it's just
the tip of, needed. Yeah, okay,
it's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to you. Let me ask you something, Ben-Dror, and maybe we can start since you're in Israel. How is it going now with the coronavirus in Israel? We're hearing things start to open up. What's the feeling at the moment where you are?
Just like any other country, we are hesitating. I mean, the government is hesitating between to keep on with this kind of closure or to open the markets and to open the economy and so on. It's the same. I'm quite glad because generally when you look at the comparative graphs, you find out that Israel is dealing with the coronavirus not bad. I mean, we are in a much better shape comparing to most of the countries of the OECD, for example. I mean, deaths for 1 million, Israel is one of the last countries, which we are quite glad about, needless to say. We have problems, we have difficulties, but generally speaking, Israel is doing quite well with the coronavirus.
That's great to hear. And also this week is a very significant week because this week is when we have the Memorial Day for fallen soldiers and victims of terror in Israel, and right after Israel's Independence Day. How is Israel going to mark these festivities, commemorations in light of coronavirus?
It's not simple. It's just like Leila Seder in the eve of Pesach that we all celebrated, but no way to gather all together as we did before. No parties, nothing of that kind. No conferences. Everything will be through videos, through Zoom that we are using now. And yes, it is new for us. It's not simple for us. It's because we Israelis like to celebrate in the streets, in the open spaces.
Yes,
it is something that, of course, we cannot do now. But yes, we have to pay the price in order to overcome the coronavirus.
You know, it's also an important week to mark this because we see in the age of the novel coronavirus, this new virus, the reemergence and the persistence of another virus that is of antisemitism that raises its ugly head even today as humanity as a whole copes with the coronavirus. And I think it bears a special significance. And you've been an outspoken fighter against antisemitism in all of its forms. What's your take on this?
Okay, first of all, in the last 4 or 5 years, we all speak about fake news. But fake news, it's not something new. Actually, the oldest fake news is antisemitism. I mean, when you go to history, you find out that, generally speaking, what people say about Jews is based on lies. actually. And if you go back 2,000 years ago to some places in the world, you find out the same kind of propaganda against Jews, based again and again and again on fake news. So we are experienced with it. I mean, for us, Jews, Israelis, it's not something new. It's something that happened all over, from Casablanca in Morocco to Odessa in Ukraine or Russia, whatever. But we all know it. I mean, it's not something new for us, this phenomenon of fake news and lies. And yes, as you already mentioned, I published a book about the industry of lies. I'm dealing with the last 20, 30 years. I'm not dealing with the history, but so many books written about what happened to Jews and to the whole story of antisemitism that unfortunately is keeping on, even if it has a new dimension, which is called now anti-Zionism, which is called the anti-Israelism, or BDS, as I guess you know, in the US universities. Unfortunately, yes, it is going on. And again, you find good people. I'm not speaking about evil people, speaking about good people that are attracted to the language against Israel and against Jews, not because they are anti-Semites, just because they are brainwashed with propaganda and with lies. It's going on. We have to fight it. We cannot give up. And we are not always failing. Many people are aware to the lies, and we have to mainly inform the young generation of students who are not aware to the fact that their professors manipulate them, to give them the right and accurate information about the history of Israel, the history of Zionism, the realities on the ground in the Israeli-Arab conflict. They don't know so much. And we have the very, very important role to give them the right information, not politically. It has nothing to do with the legitimate debates about settlements or other issues. It is about the very fact that some people are against the existence of one state on earth, which is Israel.
So let me ask you, in this time and age when so many people are bound to their homes, so many of our youngsters are, available online, they go from one Zoom to the next, what can we do to fight anti-Semitism today?
Right now, the most important thing is to use the social media, for example, Facebook, WhatsApp, and other channels, and to bring to the screen the right information. Don't be afraid. That's what I'm telling many people. They ask me many times after every lecture that I give, "Oh, you gave us so much information. What can we do with it?" What do you mean what you can do? You can use it. You can use it. If somebody is telling you that Israel is intentionally killing Palestinian civilians, just tell them that it is a lie.
I have to stop you here for a minute, Ben-Dror. What can you do? You can use it. I want everybody to listen carefully to what you just said, because you're absolutely correct. You have ample information online. Don't be shy or afraid to use it, and especially the kind that you're able to provide so many of your audiences, Ben-Dror.
No, I'll tell you something. What I did in my book is not propaganda. I took the main claims against Israel. For example, that Israel intentionally killed innocent civilians. For example, something that is published again and again by BDS, anti-Israelis, and others. And sometimes, let me tell you, by Israelis and by Jews. Sometimes they are leading the whole phenomena of this kind of propaganda. What I did in my book, I presented the numbers. I mean, how many people were killed in all the battles in the last 20, 30 years? What are the proportion between combatants and non-combatants? And we find out, for example, just one example, that Israel is killing much less innocent civilians comparing to any other country, much less. So when you know the information, it's not that I'm glad that one innocent civilian is killed, but Israel is doing its best in order to protect innocent civilians. And even Martin Dempsey, who was the chief of staff of the American Army, of the US Army, he said that when he wants to know how to protect innocent civilians in his military operations, he is sending his officers to Israel in order to know what to do in order to save lives.
Save lives.
But I cannot present here. We don't have the time because I will need at least 7 hours. If you will give it to me,
or people can simply read the book. I have this other question. You're very familiar. You're very familiar with the Israeli Arab and Israeli Palestinian arenas, and you're hearing statements from Palestinian leaders as if Israel is responsible or even spreading coronavirus among Palestinians. How does that make you feel?
First of all, it's very few. But yes, they have, when we are speaking about the Palestinian Authority, it's a problem because Israel is helping nowadays to the Palestinian Authority to stop the spread of the coronavirus. That's what Israel is doing. But something very interesting is happening inside Israel, because in hospitals, we have so many Arab doctors. There are even other represented in the hospitals. And there is a kind of cooperation between Jews and Arabs in Israel because of the coronavirus. Nothing is good about the coronavirus, but in one aspect, in the cooperation between Jews and Arabs, something wonderful is happening. And when we are saying that Israel is struggling against the coronavirus in the best way, it's not only because of the Jews of Israel, it's also because of the Arabs of Israel. And I have to emphasize it because many people don't know that Arabs are totally integrated in the Israeli society. Some of the best doctors in Israel are Arabs. And I'm Zionist. I'm supporting a Jewish state, needless to say. But in the same way, most of us, Israelis, want equal rights for Arabs, those who live in Israel, those who are citizens of Israel. So it's not only negative, there is something positive. And we have to distinguish between the Arabs in Israel, who are citizens, and the Palestinians that are ruled by the Palestinian Authority. Yes, they keep on, unfortunately, with that old and terrible and anti-Semitic propaganda, but not the Arabs in Israel. This is another story.
So that allows me to jump to another important topic that our viewers are very interested to hear about, and that is the new government in Israel. And let me start with this question. In light of what you just described about Arab-Israeli integration and participation in Israeli society, why don't we see the joint Arab list as part of a coalition? Why is it difficult for the Israeli public to even imagine that situation to be?
Yeah, it's a very good question because many people do not understand this. There is a contradiction between the Arab population in Israel and the leadership. Leadership is much more radical. Leadership is much more kind of BDS. They are spreading this kind of propaganda of apartheid state and so on. But the Israeli Arabs, when you go to polls that, by the way, were conducted even by the Washington Institute and the other American research centers, you find out that most Arabs, lately, the last poll was in 2019. 65 of the Israeli Arabs are proud to be Israelis.
Wow.
Proud to be, I'm speaking only about the most reliable polls. So yes, that's the situation in Israel. Proud to be Israelis. I don't really need more than that. Most of them are integrated. They are highly educated. Their percentage in the universities is becoming equal, slowly to the percentage of the Jews. Things are changing, and I'm glad that they are changing. But yes, we do have this. We do have this kind of political anti-Israeli propaganda that is affiliated mainly with the politicians, unfortunately.
Politicians. So what you're saying is the politicians may be the problem here, which leads me to again another issue of what's your feeling about this new Netanyahu, Gantz, Likud, blue and white government? What's the sentiment? First of all, what do you think about this, and what do you feel the Israeli public as a whole feels about this new government?
Generally speaking, I do support, and I published many articles in support of the unity government. This is the only way in order to form a stable government. I cannot tell you that I'm satisfied of every paragraph in the new coalition agreement. I'm not, and I published a lot of criticism about some aspects of this unity coalition. But generally speaking, yes, I do support. I hope it's going to work. I hope it's going to lift some of the tensions between the political rivals. I do hope. We don't know. We have to wait some months in order to see if it's working or not. But for the moment, this is the best way to solve some of the political tensions in the Israeli society. So I'm totally supporting the new government. And according to the polls, if you ask generally speaking about the public opinion, most of the Israelis are supporting, even the voters of blue and white, Kahol Laban party, even they, most of them support the decision of Benny Gantz to form the coalition government.
So I have to say that many people puzzle at the seemed insistence of Yair Lapid and Bogi Ya'alon to move towards possibly a fourth round of elections in their unwillingness to move for a national unity government, and the stalemate, because there has been no clear resolution in the elections that allow, each and every of these different blocs to establish their own coalition. How do you explain that persistence?
Let me tell you something. First, Yair Lapid is a good friend of mine, and we disagree nowadays. We disagree about this issue. I don't think, and of course, needless to say, I spoke with him as a journalist. I have to speak with him and with others, and I do appreciate him, but he doesn't want to lead us to a new round, fourth round of election. It's not what he wanted. What he wanted is to achieve much more in the negotiations during forming this new government. Maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, but under the circumstances, this is what achieved. Maybe, I don't know, he could achieve more for his party, for his school of thought, but that's what we have. And right now, when we have a new government, we have to support it and to wish that it's going to work. I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure. Nobody can be sure. It's not guaranteed, but I totally support the new coalition. It's the best way right now for Israel to continue.
And let me ask you this. This puts Israel in a very interesting situation where we know that there is a petition before the Israeli Supreme Court asking it to declare that the prime minister who'd been indicted cannot preside as prime minister. If that happens, if the Israeli Supreme Court rules that Netanyahu cannot be prime minister, that may shatter this entire agreement, might it not?
It might shatter. I hope it will not happen, because in Israel we have a very, how to call it, an activist Supreme Court, much more than in any other country. I guess we are heading the top of Supreme Courts with this kind of interference from the Supreme Court. They are deciding about almost everything. It's not good. It's not good for the rule of law. I do hope that they will restrain themselves and will not interfere. Maybe in one paragraph or two, I don't know. I'm not going to all the details now because I'm not sure that the audience know about every detail in the coalition agreement. But generally speaking, I don't want them to interfere. There is a very clear law. You can like it and you can dislike it, but the law enables the Prime Minister Netanyahu, which I did not vote for him, but it enables him to continue until the final decision of the court about his case. I don't know what is going to happen, but I do hope that the court, the Supreme Court, will not interfere, because any interference of Supreme Court will really shatter all the efforts to build a unity government.
And the trial, Bibi's trial, is supposed to continue as usual, right? There is nothing in the agreement that says that the trial will not move forward.
Of course. In 1 month exactly, the trial is going to begin. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 24th of May, about 4 weeks from now. And I read articles in the Washington Post, in other newspapers, that, the Israeli democracy is collapsing. Nonsense, because we hear this kind of the end of democracy for 40 years now. The Israeli democracy is quite strong. There are problems in the US. You have problems with the White House and with the president, and there are so many debates about him and his way of ruling. But it doesn't mean that the American democracy is about to collapse. We have much less problems, and yet you hear this kind of people who are Israelis who are writing to the New York Times, to the Washington Post, to other newspapers, the Israeli democracy is collapsing. Nonsense. They say it again and again. It's part of the demonization campaign against Israel. It's the same people who are saying that Israel is committing endlessly crimes against humanity. They are lying about the Israeli military. They are lying about the end of the democracy. But this is a democracy. Part of the democracy is to know that some people are going to say that this is the end of the democracy.
Right. And let me ask you one last important question, and this is about Israel and the US. We know that right before they signed the agreement, both the Prime Minister and Benny Gantz, there was a public poll that predicted Likud might even rise to 40 seats in the Knesset, that Netanyahu may win his desired bloc of 64, maybe have a narrow right-wing government. And one of the reasons I heard given that even though these were the polls, Netanyahu chose to move forward, was he said, Trump already congratulated me. I can't embarrass him, because he calls to congratulate once for having formed the government. And we know that President Trump waited a while to make that call. How do you see the relationship between the individuals and those two countries at this time, and looking into the November elections?
As a researcher, I don't express my political views, not that I do not have, but I do publish my political views in English, in White News, in my newspaper, Yediot Achronot, in Hebrew. Generally speaking, I'm glad that the Prime Minister of Israel is a close friend of the President of the US. But I cannot tell you in the same time that I'm so much enthusiastic about one of them. I'm not sure that they are my cup of tea, but they are the leaders. We have to respect it, because the alternative is that they will not be friends, which I don't want. So even if politically they are not my heroes, I'm glad as an Israeli, as someone who wants Israel to prosper. I'm glad that they are friends. Any other option will be much worse. And as we know, and as you know, Joe Biden, who is going to be the Democratic candidate, is no less friend of Israel than the president now, Donald Trump. So there will not be a huge change, even if there will be a change in the US. So whoever will be the president in the US, whoever is going to be in the White House, I do hope that the special relationship between Israel and the leaders of Israel and the White House will be as good as they are now.
Well, thank you very much, Ben-Dror. I just want to wish you and everyone around you the very best of health and safe times in Israel. I also want to share with our viewers that Ben-Dror, dror is an indication of liberty, is a synonym in the Israeli, in the Hebrew language. And Ben-Dror celebrates his birthday during the Passover holiday. So happy birthday, Ben-Dror. To you and to us all, we're fortunate to have you on the side of Israel and the Jewish people. We look forward to reading your book and to see you next time. Amen, that you're able to come to the US on the direct flights. I'd like to thank you for joining us. It was one of the most fascinating and important conversations we've had in a while. Keep up the great work. And to all of you, our viewers, I'd like to say stay safe and stay healthy as well. I'd like to thank our director, Sloan Copeland, JBS Managing Director, Dara Golub, Technical Manager, Michael Paley, Transmission Manager, John McDevitt, and to the producer of In the News, Carol Lilienthal. For JBS, I'm Shahar Azani, and until next time, we'll see you soon, and lehitraot.